Good evening and welcome. Tonight we are going to be reading this history magazine article entitled D-Day at 80, because the day that this video goes up, it will be the 80th anniversary of the D-Day invasion, the day that changed the history of the world forever. Now, this article was actually chosen by one of my channel members. It was chosen by Laura Taylor. Thank you, Laura. My channel members get to choose which history magazine articles I get to read on my channel. And I should be getting a new magazine either next week or early the week after that, which means a new video will be coming out where members get to pick articles. So if you would like to participate in that very soon, you can click the join button right down there. Or if you're on mobile and it's not there, you can click the very first link in the description box. It is only 99 US cents per month, the lowest I can possibly set it to, and there's no tiers or anything, and you get lots of exclusive behind the scenes audio only content, and you get to pick history magazine articles. You get your name at the start of every video. There's lots and lots and lots of perks. So if you would like to join, now is the time, because like I said, new magazines coming soon. In about a week or so I'll be posting just for members only for them to pick articles. So now's the time. But anyway, this is a new kind of series of article in history magazine. It's called Visual History. There's another article like this, but I haven't got to it yet, where it shows really, really incredible photographs from a moment in history with captions about them. So it's not really an article, it's more of like a picture book, a slideshow. So we're going to look at some incredible photos from the D-Day invasion. But let's read these little boxes first. Look at this amazing photo here. It says, on June 6th, 1944, Allied forces began the formidable task of liberating Europe from the Nazis. The largest amphibious invasion in history, Operation Overlord was preceded by months of preparation in Britain, where hundreds of thousands of American troops were stationed in readiness. Here's the caption for this photo. It says, Parade for a Princess. Near Brighton, on England's southern coast, 18-year-old Princess Elizabeth, the future queen, inspects an honor guard of the 2nd Battalion Grenadier Guard on May 17, 1944, during D-Day preparations. Incorporated into the British Army's Guards Armored Division, the Grenadiers landed in Normandy in mid-June, later taking part in the liberation of Brussels on September 3rd. So here we can see Princess Elizabeth inspecting the soldiers here who are standing at ready. There's rows and rows of them. How amazing they would go on to liberate Brussels. It's really, really incredible. You can see their weapons there. And you can see more soldiers at attention here. So she's walking through the middle of these ranks here, along with this guy. That's probably the guy in charge. Like, this guy has a cane. You know, so he probably needs that to walk or something. I don't know, because no one else has one, I don't think. But yeah, there's another guy walking with him, and she's of course looking very fashionable, but still very serious because it is wartime and it's not the time for, you know, super fancy fashions. It's a very nice, simple outfit she's wearing with very simple shoes. At the next photos here. This says, life goes on. U.S. military vehicles line a Southampton street and await transport to Normandy, while Annie Bagg hangs out her wash as usual in 1944. So here you can see Mrs. Bagg in her little garden. In the UK they call them gardens. In America we call them backyards. Hanging out her whites by the looks of it. And here we can see in the street all of these military, looks like jeeps, different cars, and even kind of looks like, let me see, well maybe you can see too. That looks like some kind of weapon there, doesn't it? I'm not sure what that is, but you can see the military jeeps lining up there along her street. And she's just going about like it's a very normal occurrence there. Which it probably was by that point. Where was she? Southampton, probably. Here's some famous faces. It says teamwork. Supreme Allied Commander Dwight D. Eisenhower and Prime Minister Winston Churchill inspect U.S. paratroops in England in March 1944. So here is President Eisenhower. Very nice coat there. He's looking at Prime Minister Churchill, who is very, very characteristic in that long, I guess a London fog style coat. His cane, big old smoky cigar, and his little top hat there. Looking very Churchill-y. You can see the soldiers here alongside them walking around. This picture is really cool. It says fighting words. British troops of the 6th Air Landing Brigade inspect the message on their Horsa glider at an airfield in England. They would go on to cross the English Channel to Normandy, France, to carry out a drop of supplies and troops on the evening of June 6th, 1944. Wow. So here you can see these soldiers here. They're dressed all in camouflage, so they're probably going to drop down into Normandy with the supplies, which is very daring, isn't it? Because at this point they don't know how successful the invasion is going to be. But they are giggling right now because they are reading what was written on this airplane, looks like in chalk. It says the channel stopped you, but not us. What else does it say? It's kind of small right there. It looks like reminder. Country, Plymouth. Oh, Coventry, Plymouth, Bristol, London. Cities that have been bombed. Now it's our turn. You had your time, you German, and then it's rubbed out. Because that was probably a really mean word. I wonder if it was rubbed out like in editing or if it was rubbed out. But anyway, so they're having a giggle at the writing there, which was pretty common to write on like bombs and airplanes and things. It still is today, I suppose. I wouldn't know, but I don't see why not, huh? Let's look at this photo. This is incredible. Make sure you can see the whole thing up there. You can see all the soldiers up here. It says rough crossing. At Gosport, England, a Sherman tank of the British 13th and 18th Royal Hussars board a carrier on June 1st, 1944. The tank would later land at Sword Beach. From there, the Hussars, as part of the 27th Armored Brigade, would fight their way inland to participate in the Battle of Caen in early July. So here we can see this big old tank here with all this, I guess, steam, smoke, something coming out, being loaded up onto this carrier. This big ship is going to sail across the English Channel and drop them off in mainland Europe. And all of the soldiers have come out to watch it being loaded. And there's soldiers still kind of squatting on it, sitting on top of it. You can see the water right there. This ship is docked, ready to go. It would land later at Sword Beach, so I wonder if, it's going there that day, June 1st. Very ambitious. Oh, this is a famous photo, isn't it? It says, mustering Allied forces. In preparation for the attack, a fleet of landing craft passes the headquarters ship HMS Bulolo. Is that how you say that? HMS Bulolo. On May 24th, 1944, while King George VI reviews the procession from the ship. Landing craft were vital for the amphibious attack. The maneuvers took place in the roads between Southampton and the Isle of Wight, sheltered waters where, throughout history, great English fleets assembled before setting sail. Wow. So I don't think we can see the king from this photo because we can only see this side of the ship. You can see all these cranes that are there to hoist like lifeboats and things down. Little rafts there. There's a big boat right here that looks like it's docking by this huge ship, HMS Bulolo. I don't know what Bulolo means, but look at all of these ships here, landing craft. If you've seen Saving Private Ryan, which if this topic fascinates you, you should absolutely watch at least the first half hour of that film because it very accurately depicts the landing at Normandy, and then the rest of the film is about events afterward. But you'll see these washing up on the shore and everyone jumping off into the water, the beach, running. It's very intense, but I would say let's count. But how far does this go? It stretches as far as the eye can see. You can't even see how far this goes. It's so many, all loaded with soldiers preparing for the preparation for the invasion, right? They're going to the Isle of Wight to wait for their moment. My goodness. It's very, very nerve-wracking, I imagine, sitting on there, sailing across the English Channel. And here is our view from one of these landing crafts here. Moments away, American soldiers in a landing craft approach Omaha Beach on D-Day. Nearly 160,000 Allied troops landed in Normandy on June 6, 1944. So we see the soldiers here staring at the beach. It looks like some others have landed and they're waiting for their wave to go, wearing their helmets, their gear, they have their weapons, preparing to invade France and attempt to liberate the country as well as the rest of Nazi-occupied Europe. The very, very first step in the last days of World War II. And here's what would happen immediately after: the leap of faith. Canadian troops of the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry Highlanders jumped from their craft into the waters off Juno Beach in Normandy, carrying bicycles to travel inland quickly and quietly. Can you see? Looks like this guy's trying to ride it in the water. Maybe he's just carrying it, but it looks like in this photo he's trying to ride it. But you can see the bicycles that they're bringing in so that they can start infiltrating the countryside, making as little noise as possible. Very smart, but also very dangerous because you can't really defend yourself when you're on a bicycle. You can't prepare for snipers or bombers or anything when you're on a bike. But that was the plan, and I assume it worked, right? You can see the landing craft here, the little ramp that they're coming down on, these ramps, into the waters here, because this can't wash up completely on the shore, Close enough, though, that you can see the shores right here. It looks like they've got gear waiting for them. And this is a very daunting picture here. It says the thick of battle. British sappers, or Royal Engineers tasked with repairing bridges and roads and laying and clearing bombs, arrive on Sword Beach on D-Day. Behind them, medics assist the wounded, while in the distance, commandos of the 1st Special Service Brigade disembark. So here we can see, let's start in the back. You can see the landing gear back here. The soldiers rushing out across the water, some of them crawling, because there's probably still artillery fire, crawling toward the beach. You can see a medic there, and medics here helping the soldiers who are already wounded, help get them off the beach and get them treated quickly. here we can see the brave soldiers that are going to clear bombs, which is terrifying, and help repair bridges and roads, which is so important, especially when you're invading. Because I'm sure the first thing that the Germans would do is try to blow up bridges to stop them from advancing, right? So they're gonna fix them up to help the Allies invade. This is the thick of battle here. You kind of have to wonder what the photographer is thinking as well. You know, how important it is to document all of this, while also being very careful. And here's a sad photo. The greatest sacrifice. The bodies of Americans killed fighting for the liberation of France lie in a makeshift graveyard in Normandy. After the war, the bodies were recovered and transported back to the United States or to cemeteries in Europe. On D-Day alone, June 6, 1944, 2,501 Americans were killed, making up more than half of the total Allied deaths that day. In the Battle of Normandy that followed, some 73,000 Allied servicemen died, and 153,000 were wounded. So here we can see them. It's not terribly gruesome, you know, but they're all in body bags, being respectfully laid out, probably so they can be easily identified or even categorized by rank or what, like, brigade they were part of, what unit, I suppose. And here you can see grave markers being placed and graves being dug so that they can be properly and respectfully buried. I wish there was a date on this photo so we know how soon after the battle this was, but I can imagine it was not very long after the invasion. And very good to know that most of the soldiers got to go home at the end of the day. I know there are still some there at Normandy. Well, some. There are many. But most of the soldiers, I guess, got to go through with their wishes and their families' wishes to come home. It's still a very respectful burial. Here's a picture up above. It says guiding in the gliders. Gliders of the U.S. 9th Air Force land in Normandy on the first day of the invasion. The Allies used gliders to land infantry, arms, and supplies. Gliders required high levels of skill by both their pilots and the planes that towed them into position. Here, the C-47 planes that had guided the gliders across the English Channel still circle overhead. A crashed glider sits away from the remaining aircrafts. It looks like that's the crash right there. The looks of it. That's unfortunate. A little village down there. A little orchard by the looks of it. There's the gliders there. And there's the airplanes that brought them over. So I wonder where they used gliders. I guess because there's no, you know, engine like there is for real airplanes. Maybe it's a lot less risk to send them over the battlefields and enemy territory. I'm sure someone in the comments will tell me for sure. I imagine most of the comments are going to be people explaining World War II stuff to me, which is not a terrible thing. I do like to read when people post paragraphs of like history and facts, but like I imagine there'll be twice as many on this video. I'm not complaining, I'm just saying that's what I expected from this video. So by all means, go for it, guys. Go crazy. I know there's a lot of World War II nerds out there. Now's your time. 80th anniversary of D-Day, can you imagine? My goodness. This is in yellow and I can't read it. It says, street by street. American troops patrol Carentan, Normandy in August 1941. After a ferocious house-to-house battle, German forces surrendered the town of Carentan to the U.S. 101st Airborne Division on June 14, 1994. Its capture provided the Allies with a staging post to attack the vital port of Cherbourg. So here we see these 3 American soldiers just patrolling the street. I'm sure long after the risk is gone, but it's still important to patrol. You can see so much rubble down here from the battle. And little shops over here, we can see this one says Tout pour l'auto. Everything for cars. I can't read the rest of it, it's too blurry, or what this sign says. But it seems like a car shop, right? There's another soldier over here in the crease. It looks like he's smiling at the camera, to be honest. Looks like he's about to point his gun at the photographer. But yeah, hopefully civilians were safe as could be during that battle, because it sounds very harrowing, ferocious house-to-house battle, kicking out the Germans so that they could use this as a staging ground. Very terrifying. Okay, this is the last photo, and I'm glad it is because it's the only colorized one. Colorized World War II photos are something else, aren't they? They really bring things into perspective, make them feel more real. This says Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité. Acclaimed by crowds after 4 years of Nazi occupation, French military vehicles parade in front of the Arc de Triomphe in Paris on August 26, 1944. 2 days earlier, U.S. supplied Sherman tanks of the French 9th Company, known as La Neuve, and mainly crewed by Spaniards, were the first to reach central Paris. The U.S. 4th Infantry Division followed the next day. Paris was free but hungry. The Allies would devote much time to restoring supply lines to the French capital. Yeah, you can imagine. So La Neuve, I guess that's Spanish. I thought it was a French name, but I think that's La Neuve, which just means the 9th, because it's the French 9th Company, because they're crewed by Spaniards. So I guess they called themselves La Neuve. That makes sense. But you can see the soldiers driving down. Here's the Arc de Triomphe. It's very appropriate, not just because this is a memorial to French victory, but there's those famous photos of Hitler and the Nazis parading down this very street when they occupied Paris. And here's the result, the Allies coming down and people lining the streets, the boulevard, probably the avenue, cheering. You can see nurses over here, other soldiers. And there's a sign, of course, that says Vive de Gaulle, long live de Gaulle, who was in charge of the Free French military and would soon become president of France. Looks like there's a big French flag here. And since it is August and it's very hot, it's a beautiful clear day and the trees are bursting with green. Very nice. It looks like there's lots of children here as well. Some soldiers and people standing on top of, I guess that's a newspaper stand to get a better view. I wonder if we can see what this sign says. De Gaulle au pouvoir, I think. That's what it says. I'm not sure. There's some numbers there, but probably says 1944 because I could just see the 44. But yes, very happy victory. And the rest is history. France is liberated, and World War II, at least in the European front, starts to come to a close. You know, it'd take a couple more months, because then they have to fight their way into Germany with the British and the Americans on the west and the Soviets on the east coming in. But we all know the result, don't we? Let's take one last flip through of the pictures here before I end the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you, again, would like to suggest articles for History Magazine, because I do have another article that's like this, but it's about World War I. You could be able to request it very, very soon if you become a channel member. Got probably the cheapest membership on YouTube for what you get. You get all kinds of goodies. And I know lots of people like to see their names in the History Magazine videos. I hope that you found this video to be relaxing and educational. And I hope that you have a good night.